I've connected with the Interstellar Object 3I Atlas. My Pleiadian guide has shared information with me about this and about what's happening. I'm going to share it with you in this video. First, I want to talk about different layers of frequency. And here on Earth, the human collective is kind of filtered in their perspective of reality, in our perspective of reality. When we look out into space, we have essentially a quarantine happening, right? The Van Allen belt has been the quarantine that humans cannot go beyond. Now, when we look out into space, we see things from a 3D perspective. So we see essentially like a dead solar system and a dead universe, right? The moon, Mars, Venus, all of these planets, they look essentially like dead planets, right? Like rocks with no life. That is the filter through which we experience the universe based on our level of consciousness. Now, the universe looks vastly different from a higher vibrational perspective, from a higher frequency. I've seen it. I have been taken to, you could call it remote viewing, bilocating, however you want to term it, to essentially galactic bases on Mars, in Mars, the moon, Venus, and I can assure you there is life everywhere within the solar system. Now, we have this interstellar object that it appears from our perspective that it's come from very, very far away. But essentially, what's happened is we have manifested it into our reality. Now, we're seeing it through the lens of the quarantine, the lower vibrational lens, right? Because of the collective frequency, and it looks like a comet or an interstellar object, a rock, however you want to term it. And that's how we experience it through this lens. Now, from a higher perspective, I have been able to connect with that. And just like anything else that I've connected with, on a higher frequency perspective, it appears as or renders as a Federation craft. Like I talked about in my last video, this is a Federation craft. But from the 3D perspective, it appears as this interstellar object. Okay, now the sun is interacting with it, your consciousness is interacting with it, and it is shifting in its appearance, it is shifting in its energy based on the shifts that are created through us. So this is a fluid situation. So based on the collective consciousness, based on the fear being released and the love being anchored, that has a direct effect on this object. And this object, this craft, is the manifestation of that alchemization, of that dense energy or that process. So as we continue to alchemize any fear and continue to elevate our consciousness and open ourselves up to new potentials, new timelines, new possibilities, this craft can morph, it can shift, it can move, it can change its trajectory. All sorts of things can happen, but it's going to happen based on our level of consciousness. So think of it as a direct mirror, right? So we created this thing, we brought it in, manifested it to bring our attention to the sky, to the stars. Now we've got that filter that when we look out, we feel very isolated, right? That's that quarantine. We feel very separate, right? It's like lower chakra living, lower chakra experiences. So this object for many manifests as just a rock coming towards us, okay? But for those of you who have anchored in a lot of light, have been doing this work for some time now, you can, and I urge you to connect with this, because this is an opportunity for you to further expand your consciousness, and that will have a direct effect on this object. And again, it can change how it manifests, how it presents itself. Okay, because there's going to be some point here on this ascension path where that quarantine is going to essentially be lifted. And when that happens, and that happens not by the Federation or some external force, that happens by our collectively level of consciousness. Now, if you're already, been doing the work, like I said earlier, you could peer through all of that like I have. And I have been taken to these areas on these other planets and things, and I've seen them I've been flying through the solar system in a craft with one of my guides past Saturn. The moons, there's life all over. We just can't experience it here because we're still operating from a frequency of isolation, disconnectedness, and separation. Okay, so based on what's happening with our vibration and our collective frequency, we have created this object, we have called it in to the solar system to give everybody an opportunity to expand their consciousness, to become more aware, to look out and realize that we're not alone. That creates a monumental shift within your body. That creates a monumental shift within your consciousness. It reminds you that you are connected to something greater, that you are not isolated, you are not separated. Okay? The identifying as the human, my Pleiadian guide has always told me this, is the cause of all suffering because you're experiencing life through the lens of a separate being and not in tune or connected with your higher self, the higher aspects of you. And that includes your guides, right? So you have this opportunity now to continue to anchor the light. We have this awareness of this object now that is coming in, very unusual trajectory, very unusual path. It's heading towards the planet. In fact, there's other objects because we're going to continue to manifest them as well. And they will have interactions energetically with objects in our solar system, right? This adjusts the electromagnetic field. It adjusts the energy, okay? And it allows for an expansion of consciousness, all right? And as that happens, more of these things are going to appear. But again, connect with them, okay? Connect. Everything is a living expression of consciousness. It may not be a breathing, living, breathing biological entity at this frequency, right? But everything in your experience is a manifestation or reflection of consciousness. You can connect with all of it, right? Do you have crystals? You can connect with your crystals. You can connect with this object. You can connect with this object on a higher frequency and experience the occupants of that in the space within it. All right? That is all possible. All possibilities exist. But I want you to know that we are creating this. This is a part of our expansion, our ascension timeline, and it's an opportunity to level up, to take the next step, to become more connected to what's out there, right? And not so focused on what's in here, all right? In here is crumbling. It's all falling apart to make way for the new. The new is starting to come forward, right? We're starting to see that. This 3-eye atlas is a great example of that. And again, there are other objects. There will be more objects. Some will seem to spontaneously appear, right? But this was something that we brought in here on a lower frequency so that it can get the attention of the masses, right? There are craft all over the place, everywhere, but people don't see them. They're not aware of them. So we create a more physical version of that craft to get the collective's attention, okay? But know that that is under intelligent control, okay? It is being guided by the Galactic Federation, okay? That is an extension of who we are. We're just the ground crew. We are the local aspect of the Galactic Federation who has simply maybe forgotten that, right? Because again, identifying as the human being, you forget that you're connected and part of a greater reality, okay? But we're calling in that greater reality on a higher level, and it's time to acknowledge that. And it's time to connect with that, right? Connect with it with an open, loving heart and allow that energy to anchor that will elevate the frequency of the collective and allow this object to start to shift more towards a higher frequency version. And since people will be aware of it, they will start to experience that as well. Okay, so we've been doing a lot of the shadow work, working through the fears, working through the dense energy, the dark energy. Now we're finally starting to, enough of you guys, the light workers, the starseeds have done this. have created a situation where we could start to bring in some of these objects for the masses to be able to experience. Okay? This is very different than like the Phoenix Lights, for example, right? Where there was a actual craft that vibrated down to gauge the receptivity or the fear level of the human collective at that time. It was back in the 90s, right? This is something that we have a more direct manifestation in. We are in control of that. Back then, it was our higher aspects controlling that, right? Because we were more disconnected back then. But now you're connected. And now we are bringing this in, and we are giving others an opportunity to not be so fearful, because it's not appearing as an alien craft. It's appearing as an interstellar object, right? So that people can become receptive to it, people can become aware of it. And the more that they lean into that, and the more they work through their individual fears, the more opportunity that has to morph into a higher frequency version of itself, which is more akin to a Galactic Federation craft, okay? But it's interacting with the other conscious aspects of our solar system, the sun and the moon and the other planets. These are all interacting together, kind of reshaping this reality into a higher frequency version of reality, where more of these things can then be a match and can manifest. And that's because we are now more aware of what's out there. So keep it going, connect with it. If you could connect with it, drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you get. And, maybe we'll dive into this a little deeper on a future video. And I hope to see you then. Thank you.